Hello, my name's Sarah Mathis and my business is Highland Colours. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be looking today at the two dye pots that I started to set up in a previous video. One of them has walnut shells in it and the other has cherry bark. I'll be showing the colours that I get from those. I'm also going to be revisiting the project that I started in my last video, which was making a peg loom rug cushion and using the hand spun yarns from leftover fleeces. So I'll be showing that, how I finished that and what it looks like at the end. So I hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, please think about hitting the subscribe button. So that's my cherry bark there, and here I've added the Shetland to the dye pot. I will be bringing that up in the temperature a little bit. I'm not going to even simmer it, just to warm it up on top of the wood burner for a little while, and then I'll leave it overnight and have a look at it tomorrow. I may be having to add a modifier to this to get anywhere near pink, because it really does not look pink to me. It looks very orange. This is the walnut shells that I soaked the other day, and they've been in the soak now for about 2 weeks. So they were left on top of the wood burner to simmer, and the water that's come off them is a sort of dark chocolate brown. So I'm going to see what colour I can get on the wool from this. I've now added some Shetland tops to this dye pot. They were soaked in water first for quite some time, and now I've just added them in there, and I put it on a gentle heat here on my Calagas dye stove. I'm just going to bring it up to a very light simmer, not really a hard boil or anything like that, and I'm hoping for some sort of light to medium browns from this. I don't think they're going to be very dark, so I'll come back later. I've just come around the side of my house here to show you my rocket stove. I featured it in a couple of reels on Instagram, so if you want to see it in action, you can go over there and see that. I just thought I would show it because it's a really cool little thing. It is very portable and quite easy to lift this here, and that round the outside underneath this casing there's some kind of like fire bricks, and what you do, I haven't actually lit this, I'm getting it ready for a new dye batch that I'm going to be doing, but you push your firelighter in there and then push your sticks in, and the as the sticks burn, the fire is pushed up this round piece here, and your pot sits on top here. And so it's called a rocket stove because that's basically what it does, is like a rocket jet of flames that come out there, and it really does heat the pot up very quickly. The downside to this is that you kind of need to sit outside and keep pushing these in as they burn. If you just light it and go away, you'll probably come back within the hour and find that it's all gone out. So I thought I would just show you that before I start my next dye batch on it. I've just come down the garden to show you my Weld plants. They're just here, and they're very tiny at the moment. They seeded themselves into the cracks of the pavement just up near the back kitchen door, and the reason for that was because I was chopping the Weld last summer, and as I did so, the seeds were just going everywhere, so I ended up with a lot of seeds growing through the cracks of the pavement. So I popped 3 in here. The reason I've only gone for 3 plants this year is because last year I had so many of them that I still have dried Weld left in my workshop for dyeing with this year. It's a very old dye, and cloth that has been dyed using Weld has been dug up from Anglo-Saxon burial sites, so that tells you how long this plant has been in use as a dye plant. It has Reseda in the name, which tells you about how it propagates. It just throws its seeds all over the place, and actually this is found in the highways and byways around where I live as well, so I don't really have to grow it in my garden, but I do like to have a few plants just to keep the seeds and to have that such reliable source of yellow dye. It really is a very good yellow dye, so I do like to have that. I've left the dye pots overnight to just cool down and just sit overnight. I find that there's a better dye take up on the wool if I do that. So I'm just going to show you what I've got now. I was a bit concerned yesterday when I put these in because I just felt the colours weren't very good, and when I lifted this out it looked very, very orange rather than a pink. So I did put a slight modifier in, only a few drops of ammonia. This is just household ammonia, which I mixed 2 or 3 drops of that in a jar of water, mixed it round and popped it in, and it has turned the dye pot quite a sort of bronzy orange there. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to tip this away now so that we can see what we've got. And I'm going to rinse that in a minute. I would say it's pushed the colours into a sort of pinky apricot colour. There's more of a pinkiness about it. It's not the pink that I was hoping for, but this is very often the way it is with plant dyed wools, that you don't always know what colour you're going to get. So I'm very, very happy with that. The wool is in good condition, and I will rinse and dry that and spin that. That's Shetland. And here is the other dye pot. Haven't yet tipped this out at all to see before filming, so I'm going to be just seeing what it's given us. And that is actually what I was expecting. And that is what I would call coffee latte sort of colour. It's a creamy light brown. It's a very nice brown, that. Actually, these two I could put together in an art yarn. They would look good. So I'm very happy with that. I just wanted to revisit the Ashford E-spinner. I reviewed it in the first episode, and I wanted to just talk about the sides to the Ashford E-spinner that I feel are things that I'm not so wildly enthusiastic about. One of them is that it does go at high speeds if you want it to, for plying wool or for doing a fine yarn, and therefore it could be going at quite a high speed for quite a long time. And because of that, you do need to oil it. I oil this probably, I don't know if it's too much, but maybe once an hour, maybe once every hour and a half, I'm putting a little drop, just 1 drop of oil on there. And then every now and then I'm putting some in here and some in here. And that's fine, it's a machine, it needs to be oiled. The trouble with that is that this oil becomes very, very black, and it comes off on my hands, which it has done. It's coming off on this thread when I take this in and out. So, and it also gets on this, on the wood. So I feel like that's just something to note. It's one of the things that you have to live with. It's not that big a deal. The other thing is, I'll just take this tensioning off here, because I've found it quite tricky to know how to get this back into here. It's not quite obvious to me immediately, but I figured it out now. there's a flat side to this in the middle here. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see the flat side there? Yeah. And there is obviously a flat side in there too. So you can't just shove this in any way you want to go. It has to go in the way it came out. And the way you know is that there's this little raised area on here. And so the flat side goes with that raised area up, and then it goes in every time, no problem. But you just have to know that. And I've gone and got more grease on me. The other thing I would say is, I don't think that this is the very best wheel if you want to do art yarns or lock yarns, because it's not variable speed. So that's just something to note about it. Some people may disagree with me, but that's my own feeling. The other thing I have been doing is I've got some cat hair. I don't know if you noticed that that cat that was sitting next to me in the first episode when I was working with the e-spinner, he came and sat up in the chair, and he's absolutely gorgeous. He's a Persian and he's not mine, but I've been given the fur, so I naturally thought I would spin it. It's gorgeous fur. It's just like Angora, and so I have put it into an art bat here, and I thought I'd just show you that. I'm not doing this project right now, but I will be spinning that up and showing that at some future point. It's a grey merino and grey Shetland with the white flecks of cat fur in it. If you didn't want to see the white flecks, the way round that would be the hand carders. Card up the cat fur or whatever fur it is you're putting in, Angora, anything like that, first. Make sure it looks like you want it to look, and then put it into your drum carder. I also did one that is the same, but with some black flecks of sari silk in it. So, I don't know if you can see that there. It's just got little black flecks in it, and that's the sari silk. I really wanted to have two yarns that were very, very similar, but sort of different but similar, if you know what I mean, so that I could have, I want to do a scarf on a rigid head or loom, so I'm going to have a block of warp that is with the black flecks in it, and a block of warp that doesn't have the black flecks, so that there's a slight pattern in it. So that's where I'm going with that, and I will revisit that at some future point. I'm returning now to the project that I started in the last video, which is the peg-loom rug, making cushion covers with that at 22 inches square, and that's what it looks like. I have just begun to sew this up around the edge. I decided to make this into a permanent seam because I'm not anticipating washing this very often, and if I do, this crocheting that I'm putting in around the edge is quite chunky and I can pull it out and wash the sections if I need to. I'm using this Wensleydale hand spun yarn, which I spun at 120 yards per 100 grams. That makes that a chunky yarn, and I'm doubling it up and using it double. So it's a suitable yarn for this. Not only is it a nice grey neutral colour and it sort of disappears, but also the Wensleydale wool is about this long, each strand of it. So when you spin that together in a worsted way, that makes a very strong yarn and it's quite hard to break. So I felt that would be very suitable for this project. I'm also not using a crochet hook. I started to use this and I felt that it was very slow going, very, very difficult, because every time I put it in and pull it out again, I was pulling all the locks and the bits of yarn with it, and I was having to pull those out each time, and it was just taking an awful long time. So I've gone over to using this vintage latch hook there. I hope you can see that up close. It's got this little latch on it which helps when you pull the yarn through. The little latch comes over the top of it, and so it's smooth and it just pulls through easily. So I'm finding that's an awful lot easier to use. And just to explain exactly how I'm doing this, I'm going down the side at the moment and I'm putting one single crochet into the end of the warp threads that run this way. So that's the cotton, black cotton that's quite strong, and I'm hooking into that with one single crochet, and then I'm hooking into the end of the weft, chunky weft threads, or yarn I should say, and I'm just showing you one here that I'm doing. The little latch has come across the yarn like that. As you pull it, it just covers the end of the hook and it goes through nice and easily. So, and here we go again. So that's gone through really, really easily and quickly, and it's done me another crochet stitch there. So I'm going to work all the way around here, and then I'm going to show you it when I've got the cushion in. One other thing was that when I wove it, I pointed out that I had not left enough warp length. So what I've done, I've gone along these all again and I put triple knots in all of them, because I realized I'm not going to have enough of this to weave it back in any way. So all I'm doing is I am tucking them in and crocheting down over the top of them so they're not seen. You can't see them along that edge at all, and they're all tucked inside. So So that's my cushion project finished. I am very pleased with the way it came out. I went all the way around with the crocheting, and when I got to the end and where I had started, I left tails and I've braided a little strip there, which I will leave because that will show me where I started the crocheting. So if I ever want to unravel that and wash the sides of the cushion pad, then I can do that. As I said before, put a 24-inch cushion filler into a 22-inch cushion cover. So I was sure to have lots of feathers, and it does actually stick out really nice and square at the sides. I hope you can sort of see that. It's quite a heavy cushion. It goes really, really well on the floor, but I also think it looks pretty good on my sofa, just sitting at the back. So I'm very, very happy with that. And if you hang on a minute, you'll get to see who wanted to try the cushion pad out first.